In follow-up to the launch of the Wahoo KICKR MOVE direct drive smart trainer that moves forwards and backwards and a little bit side to side comes the Wahoo KICKR Climb base adapter, an adapter that makes the Wahoo KICKR Climb gradient simulator compatible with the Wahoo KICKR MOVE. Now this adapter has been labelled the KICKR Croc from Wahoo, and I've got to say that's a perfect description of exactly what this new rubber foot is. Now this is required to give the Wahoo KICKR Climb gradient simulator a little bit longer footprint as it moves backwards and forwards, as the trainer moves backwards and forwards, and it gives it a little bit more side-to-side stability too. This comes in at $50 US, around $90 Australian, or is bundled with the combination pack if you were to buy everything together. So that's it in a nutshell. Let's have a look at this in action on Zwift and cover off how Zwift handles virtual simulation and physical gradient simulation. It might not be how you think.
Now, one thing of note with the Wahoo KICKR Climb and its compatibility is that it pairs directly to the trainer, so it's completely independent of any software or any platform that you load. As long as the trainer is being sent those commands, the KICKR Climb will respond accordingly. Now, I have the tilt information from the Wahoo app on screen now too. And one thing of note when using the KICKR Climb with the KICKR MOVE is the negative gradient is reduced to only negative 8%. But more on that in a little while. Okay, we'll reset things to 0, jump on the bike. Now I was quite surprised at the stability of this. Thought it might have been a little hairy to ride, but here's me at 20%, rocking back and forward, pedaling the bike, and down to 0. Okay, so there's the range of motion. Let's get in game and have a look at the response of this with the Wahoo KICKR MOVE paired via Dircon Wi-Fi and riding through Titan's Grove, the roller coaster on Zwift. Okay, with everything synced up here on screen, what's really interesting to see is how responsive this KICKR Climb gradient simulator is, with the gradient that Zwift is sending to the trainer up there in the top right-hand side, and the actual gradient that it's simulating down there just under the KICKR Climb. And it's as if there's a little bit of read ahead with this because the gradient simulator is super responsive. Up here to 5%, 6%, 4%, and as soon as it starts dropping, the climb dips down. Now, those with a close eye will notice that the negative gradient on the physical device, so the tilt unlocked, is only half of what you're seeing there on the Zwift screen. Now that's because how Zwift works. At 100% trainer difficulty, where Zwift will send the full positive gradient to the trainer, Zwift still only sends half the negative gradient. Now this means if you're doing a negative 6% descent, then the simulated downhill is only negative 3%. I've done a whole video on this. I'll link in the video description below if you want to dive into the details, but here's another example of that. So Zwift going down to negative 7, and the trainer only down to about negative 3.5, give or take. Up again to 8, back down, negative 5, negative 6, and only negative 3 on the trainer. So this is only in relation to the negative gradients. Positive gradients are simulated as seen on screen with trainer difficulty set to 100%. Now there's also another hack for this. If you do run your trainer difficulty at say 50%, where Zwift will only send half the gradient seen on screen to the trainer, you can change the wheelbase in the Wahoo app for the KICKR trainer to still give you 100% physical gradient, even though Zwift is only sending 50% of that gradient to the trainer. There's a whole other video I've done on this if you want to dig into the details. I'll link in the video description below. Okay, out of the saddle. Everything pretty stable. And working as expected. Alright, let's fast forward through to a sprint and some real hill climbing. Alrighty, one complete lap of Titans Grove complete with all its ups and downs. Coming down a -2 gradient as we exit, and the KICKR Climb on a -1 gradient, or thereabouts, as Zwift halves that physical gradient. Onto a sprint test, just to check the stability of this new foot as we come across the bridge. 3, 2, 1, let's get into it. And without the trainer locked out, that forward and back motion wasn't too bad. I still managed to crack just over 1200 watts there, temporarily. And as I try and recover from that, we'll turn left up here and hit some steeper gradients with the KICKR Climb simulator. Alrighty, that's enough of that. Let's throw a U-turn and see just how fast the response is. So U-turn, negative gradient starts now, and KICKR Climb dumps down to -2.9, 2.8, -3, spot on to -6 on the screen there. Alright, that's pretty much job done. That's how it all works. It's working quite well.
So there it is, the Wahoo KICKR MOVE paired with the Wahoo KICKR Climb gradient simulator and that new base adapter, making everything compatible with that setup. I guess the outstanding question is it worth having? And my take is, well, not essential, it's actually a nice to have. Not only are you getting those gradient simulations through the pedals as the resistance unit changes as you're going up and down, the bike is also moving up and down, prompting you to change through your gears. After having it for a week or two and then taking it away, it's something I definitely miss in the Lama Lab. So I guess in conclusion, horses for courses. If you can afford one, if it's compatible with what you've got, then sure, it's definitely a nice to have. Okay, wrapping it up there for today. Hopefully you found this one informative. If you're not in the market for one of these adapters, maybe you've learned something new about how Zwift sends those virtual gradients to trainers. Not exactly what we'd expect, is it? All right, with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.